Today we're going to be talking about the impregnation flavor in adult games. So, pregnancy is a hard flavor to categorize because are they games that have just. You can't do like a.
I'm fucking laughing. Pregnancy games are hard to categorize. Are you pregnant or are you not pregnant?
What? Well, I'm just trying to think. I had to categorize like the games that have like just a pregnancy conclusion, or if the flavor was a main part or goal of the game. So I was having trouble finding and categorizing these games. So
You're not the first woman to have trouble with pregnancy.
I know. Okay, so I have a list of these games, and I kind of separated them to the best of my ability. The games that I want to talk about. So first off, we have games. Stop laughing. Stop laughing. So first, we have games where all or most of the love interests can get pregnant. And then we have games that deal with the repopulation of the world scenario. Our third section are games set in space and enclosed places. So, like a spaceship where you can't really escape or you die. That's the only way. That's
Confined impregnation.
Yeah, pretty much. You can't leave. And then games that have transformation flavors. And then finally, games that have the lactation flavor, but don't really focus on the impregnation flavor. All right, and with that, let's get into this video. All right, so our first is pregnant characters in the game. And so our first game is Summertime Saga. This is a game that most people know, but I am going to say a summary, just in case people, have never heard of this game. So Summertime Saga is a visual novel with a sandbox feature. The premise is your father died and you have to find out what happened, but in the meantime, you can build a harem. Most of these games are like this. It's a dating sim with stats with your character like strength and charm and dexterity, and you can increase them all with mini games. And these mini games are pretty much everywhere. You have one for your job delivering pizza, you got one for fishing, you got one for homework. They're really just everywhere. And so it's a really fun game. With each of these games, I'm going to be talking about who gets pregnant and kind of what happens surrounding that kind of act. So, who gets pregnant? Most of the love interests. And I'm going to assume that when the game ends, that most or all of the love interests will have the ability to get pregnant.
If the game ends.
If the game ends, yes. It has been in development for a while now.
And hasn't had a
2016.
new build for 2 years, over 2 years.
Yeah, it's really a question if this game's gonna end. I think the main plot line is done. They're just kind of like adding things around it.
You put out a video asking these questions, and nothing has come out from the game since then.
Yeah.
So people still comment on that video. I guess they don't realize how old it is.
I guess not. It's a game from 2016, maybe even earlier.
Yeah,
but
they've brought in enough money that if they didn't bring in a single dollar more, they should hopefully be able to finish it. It will take time.
Yeah.
And I get that, and we can joke about will it finish, will it won't finish. I hope it does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. It's a great game. It's a very like a staple kind of game in this space. It has influenced a ton of games that have come after it, so I really wanted to see a finish. All right, so what happens with the characters when they get pregnant? So first off, there is a sex minigame. I told you there are minigames for everything and for the impregnation. So there's like the spinning luck game, which you kind of have to just like press at the right time to impregnate the woman. So, which is interesting. I don't think any of these other games do have a minigame that, is involved with the impregnation act. So you have to wait 5 weeks for the pregnancy, and the newborn is then sent to a daycare and kind of forgotten about. I don't know if that's concerning. Well, I mean, what do you think? Like, is that concerning to have like a child and then just set it to a daycare and then forgotten about?
I think as normal, we're dealing with idealized whatever.
Yeah.
And most humans like the idea of getting someone pregnant or being impregnated, depending on how they identify. Sometimes both, I guess. I don't know. And so most humans are going to like that flavor in some way. Mm-hmm. Pregnant bodies, that's trickier. I would say a large portion of humans like pregnant bodies, especially a large portion of men. Women, it's trickier. Like, I was talking to your mom about this, and she was like, there were parts of being pregnant that she liked where she felt sexy and she felt beautiful, and then there are a lot of parts of pregnancy where she did not.
Well, because pregnancy deals with a lot about, like, with hormones.
Yeah.
And so your hormones are
brain
just
damage
everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, okay. That too. But
and I think that these idealized pregnant bodies, some people find attractive. Not as many as the impregnation thing. But then, kids are gross.
They are.
And when that's definitely confusing to the idealized nature of these games for sexual exploration. If we're looking for something else, if we're looking for something like feeling good about posterity and the impact we've made on the world, like Harvest Moon, where you get married, you have kids, you can watch, in some versions, you can watch those kids grow up. That's something different, and that's taking us outside of the realm of, let's call it acceptable sexual gratification.
Okay, all right.
I'm not making the rules.
I know.
But so I think by compartmentalizing these things, we're able to maintain the fantasy without getting in trouble with Patreon's rules or just killing it for a lot of people. I mean, when they look at married couples, when they're happiest, they are happiest before they have kids, and they're happiest after the kids have moved out.
Yeah.
Annie, after the kids have moved out. Just saying.
Was that a diss on me?
Oh, no, never. But, all of our other children are off to college.
Yeah.
Annie's like, let's roll in Asia.
Honestly, I'm just hanging on to your and Mom's tailcoat. I'm just hanging on. Like, don't leave me.
So anyways, the bird's being kicked out of the nest. So I think that it is less sexy, so they're trying to find a way to compartmentalize. I think Love and Sex Second Base does something like that.
Where they have a daycare?
Well, it's not a daycare, but they're pregnant. You see them again. They've had the kid. You're paying like child support.
Yes. Oh my God, you have to pay like $100 a week or something for child support.
It's whatever.
Yeah.
And that way you can still continue to build your harem, and they have endings where you can see the kids if the kids are born.
Yeah, but only really in the endings.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it as well, because I think Love and Sex Second Base is I don't know if that's on your list.
That's actually my next game. So
timing.
I know. So I wasn't really going to stop you from bringing it up.
Because in that one you have the pregnant bodies.
Yeah.
And then you can have coitus with the pregnant bodies, where you don't and that seems to be rare. And I understand from an asset standpoint, that's more art. That's more things to do.
In Summertime Saga, there is no pregnant sex.
Yeah, and I think it like puts all of the quest lines on hold while they're pregnant. So you have to like, wherever you are in the quest, you have to like stop and wait till the baby's born, and then you can continue, which can be really annoying.
It really is.
But to be fair...
Another reason not to have kids.
Well, to be fair, dropping everything because pregnancy happens, that's life.
Yeah, I guess it does seem realistic.
A little too much realism.
Yeah, I know. I feel like that's too much realism.
I've seen some games have, like, in cheat modes to, oh, let's turn off the pregnancy. It's like, okay, hold on, time out. Let's... So... But once again, it's different people are going to like different things, and just like every other flavor, they're trying to find a way. Each developer is trying to find a way to appeal to their audience without scaring them off. Because I have seen a very outspoken group of people who see pregnant bodies almost as viscerally as some people see NTR. Really? It's just like, if there's a pregnant body, I want to have nothing to do with it.
Interesting.
So. And, I mean, we're not going to tell people what to like and how to like.
No. I just find that interesting because NTR is a flavor that is so, like, you like it or you don't like it.
I think all flavors are like that for the most part.
That's true, because everyone has their own...
NTR is one of those flavors where it seems to be acceptable to viscerally dislike it. Like, for example, if you came out and said, I hate games with gay sex, and every game that you saw with gay sex, you went into the forums and you said, this is an abomination, this is awful, there shouldn't be games like this.
I don't have time for that.
Well, I think that, hope that's what the anti-NTR people do, right?
Yes.
Why are you putting this in my... And so I think most of us would be like, yo, brah, that's just what they like.
Yeah, I know.
And so I'm sure there are people like that, but it's the same with NTR.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, oh, it's acceptable to hate on this thing, where it's unacceptable to hate on, sexual orientation. Well, these are all sexual orientations, but more of the classical sexual orientation games.
Yeah.
And I think pregnancy gets a little bit of that too. It's like, oh, pregnancy is disgusting. Why are you putting this pregnancy in there? And it's like, dude, people like this. People don't like this.
Yeah.
It's part of it. Mm-hmm. It's kind of, in the case of a lot of the stuff, it's one of those biological goals. So
honestly, yeah.
So we, talk about gamification of things. This is nature's gamification of things. Congratulations, you have, continued 3 billion years of evolution. Here's a cookie and
Here's
18 years of hardship,
pain, yeah,
or more with other certain people.
All right. Let's go back to Love and Sex Second Base. Okay. That's my next game. So this is a game where you start living in a house and you explore the option of having a harem. And that's basically it. There are other things to do. Like, there's 250 activities to do, but it's basically about building the harem.
It's I always see it as that classic dating sim kind of.
Yeah, it's very Sims-like. Yeah. I found it very Sims-like. I mean, I haven't really played The Sims, but what I have played.
Sims is automated. This is more intentional. You just kind of let things go and you just kind of guide, and that's what makes Sims is like an ant farm or a fishbowl, and you watch and see what happens.
Farm. I never thought of that. Yeah.
Love and Sex is a little bit more deliberate.
Yeah. But very Sims-like in the graphics and the doing 250 activities. Yeah. There's 50 places to visit, and there's 20 plus dateable characters. So it's really big.
But much to your disappointment, you still cannot date the bear.
I'm really disappointed in that.
You've been complaining about this for years. Do you think this developer is ever going to be like, fine, I will give the bear a romance?
All I'm asking for is maybe an alternative ending where you don't get eaten and beat up by the bear, and the bear is like, oh, you know what? Maybe this human's actually not that bad.
Here, come live in my cave.
Yeah, and you guys have cubs in the cave. So
it would definitely take the game in a different direction.
It really would. Oh my god.
I know there's dominance and submissive. I'm pretty sure you're going to have to be submissive to the bear. I'm putting it out there.
I mean, I guess. I think it would be funny if the bear was submissive to you.
The BDSM outfit for the bear. It ain't happening.
A collar? I mean, it kind of works for a bear.
You make it juggle on a ball thing.
Oh my god. Yeah, well, there is this bear in the Madagascar movie where it has a bow, and King Julian falls in love with the bear.
Well, there you go.
It has a tutu. Opportunities right here. So, but yeah, that's basically Love and Sex Second Base. So who can get pregnant? Pretty much everybody. Mm-hmm. Most of the love interests. There are 20 plus, and he is making more. So I'm going to assume that it's going to be more than 20.
Yeah, I don't like any of the new characters. It really feels like he's scraping the bottom of the barrel. He's hit all of the iconic tropes, and now he's like, okay, we're gonna give you. I know we've given you a gamer girl before, but we're gonna give you another gamer girl. And I know we've given you a goth girl before, but we're gonna give you a thicker goth girl, and it's totally different this time. And it's kind of like, bruh, it's okay. We can just, why don't we finish up and move on to the next thing?
Yeah, we need another game.
It's okay. He's talked about making Love and Sex third base. So
what?
I know. Well, because
third base?
First base.
Wait, well, yeah, what's third base then?
First base was, this game was originally made with live actor imaging, and it was more of it wasn't a professional thing.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't cover live actor stuff.
I don't, so that's probably why I don't know it.
But third base, I don't know if he's still going to do it, but third base looks like it was going to make it 3D models and things like that.
Actually, that sounds pretty cool.
You're like, okay, I'm in.
We don't have a lot of good 3D games, so I could get down with that.
Let's be honest. You like the map in the game, as long as the new game has the
oh
map.
my god, the map in Love and Sex Second Base is so pretty. It's probably one of my top 5 maps in adult games. I need to make a list at some point.
Oh god, you can put a video out of top map games. People are going to be like, oh wow, way to turn sex games into the most boring thing ever.
Whatever. I love maps, and I think the map in Love and Sex Second Base is just, it's beautiful, honestly, and I love it.
All right.
But anyways, back to the impregnation. So in this game, you have a 28-day fertility cycle for each girl during which they can get pregnant. Sometimes you do have to convince them to keep the baby, and you do get to see the babies at the end. But the girls give birth, 60 days after they become pregnant. So it's a very short process. It's not the whole 9 months.
Yeah, I mean, that game really isn't meant to be played more than a couple years game time.
Yeah, so 60 days makes sense.
And 60 days is half the year, because it's only there are only 4 months in the year, so it's not like...
Yeah, and I guess it does put kind of like a timer on the ending. So, like, once you get pregnant, you do have 60 days until the ending of the game,
And as with most things in that game... If you want the particular ending you want, there's a very specific path you have to go through. Oh, yeah, there
are very specific
Which
paths.
makes it kind of tricky, so...
Yeah. But I did find the interesting part is that if you don't marry the girl before she gets pregnant, you will lose love points. And
or if you're not engaged.
Yeah, and then you'll have to pay $100 each week of child support, which I do kind of find... kind of funny.
I think it's that
they even thought about that of child support.
It's like, oh, whatever. What do we got next?
So our next game is Corrupted Kingdoms.
Recently banned by Patreon.
Yes. So I only have one link for that one.
Yeah, you don't really link to Subscribe.Star.
I know. I was gonna ask you about that. Like, if I should link to Subscribe.Star or not.
I mean, you can. It's just the trouble is that if you're linking to a game that Patreon has banned for content reasons, are you going to get in trouble with Patreon? And I think you say it, you talk about it, you say it's on Subscribe.Star, you just don't link directly to the game. And I think people are internet savvy enough that they can figure this out as you talk about the thing.
Yeah. So. All right, so Corrupting Kingdoms. This is a visual novel where the main character actually dies and is resurrected in like the first 5 minutes, and discovers the world is full of magic and monsters. You're also basically in the middle of a war between humans and mythical creatures, and you're kind of just off to the sidelines, building your harem. Again, most of these games are building a harem.
So, and the focus on this one is everybody. Are you getting the monster girls pregnant? Are you getting everyone pregnant? Where do you feel like the focus is?
Everybody, honestly. I think most of the love interests do have an impregnation path. And this one's interesting because you do get to see them pregnant, and then they have the baby, and then the baby is actually sent to a daycare, and then you can have interactions, not sexual interactions, just interactions with the kids in the daycare.
Well, that sounds like just a place full of germs.
Honestly, yeah. I would not want to be there, personally. Kids are... Gross. But yeah, so you do have that aspect, which is not really... in any of these other games where you do have like a daycare, you can interact with the kids.
So they're trying to, that almost feels like a slice of life kind of.
Oh, it's very slice of life.
And,
almost like Persona kind of feelings.
Yeah, and as long as you're careful with it, I think you can get in trouble. And that could be one of the reasons why.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we should go into, the developer has some very specific ideas about why they were banned. That's cool.
Yeah.
We're all trying to figure out what the rules are, what the new rules are.
Yeah, and they're always changing, so
and I think
it's always
that
fun.
Having any kind of children in a game with sexual content, even if there's no sexualization of the children, I think it is a very perilous path.
Yeah. In this game, you're not doing anything with the children. It's purely with you and the older love interests, but since they are in the game and you do have interactions with them,
it can be construed.
Yeah.
But we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. So our next game is Deviant Anomalies. So this one's going to be interesting to talk about because...
That one's in development still, right?
Yeah.
Early development.
Yeah, early development. I mean, they're all pretty much still in development.
Well, I think the 3 previous games you've done videos on. I don't think you've ever done a video on this one.
No, because it's so early in development.
Yeah. This one was interesting because one of the difficulties when you make a game is you want to get people to sign up for your Patreon. You want to get people to buy early access on Steam. You want people to buy into what you're making. But
yeah, it's just a marketing strategy.
So how do you get them to buy in to the flavors that you're going to eventually have if we haven't gotten to a point in the story where those flavors will make sense?
Yeah, you do a fake out.
And a lot of times you'll have like dream sequences or you'll have stealth or kind of unaware things to basically telegraph to the consumer, these are the flavors you can expect in this game. This is the stylization of the sexual interactions that you can expect in the game.
Yeah, this is where the game is going towards.
Yeah, and even though we're not there yet, and we shouldn't be there yet. And Deviant Anomalies is interesting because it's got the sci-fi stuff. It's got this...
It's an interesting premise. Like, there's like this snowstorm that kind of turns your city into like a supernatural case where there are now monsters in the snowstorm, and you have a degree in criminal psychology, and so you join law enforcement to become a detective, and so you're solving crimes and building a harem
in this magic world.
In this magic world, so it's a pretty cool story.
And there's a plot line, spoilers. I guess that's what we're talking about, where one of the characters you live with is attacked by a monster, and you save them. But they start displaying pregnancy characteristics.
Yeah, they start
lactating, all this other stuff.
The belly grows.
I think this is kind of like your idea, and she ends up not being pregnant. And I think what we're doing there is we're advertising. Yes, we'll eventually have pregnant characters and what people looking for that want. But we're just not there in the story yet. So what'd you call it? A fake out?
Yeah,
so we're gonna have this fake out, and so you can explore the theme, but just not yet. And I think that's like you said, it's marketing.
Yeah, and I guess it does give the developer a chance to be like, oh, I wonder how people are going to
respond to it.
Yeah.
Oh, that is the tough part of Patreon projects, because when the developers start responding to and changing their content, those seem to be the games that take forever or just never finish.
Yeah, they kind of just tank.
Well, this game has been tough. I mean, COVID was tough too, and there was a lot of delay from that. But I think we're far enough away from COVID. I'd like to think that at least peak COVID, that we hopefully developers can get back into the swing of things. Hopefully,
God. It has been like 4 years, hasn't it?
Well, it's just one of those things. What do we got next?
A pandemic. Just one of those things.
For your generation, you're having like a once-in-a-lifetime crisis every 6 years or something at this point.
It's just
you guys
what's next? I got my hard helmet on. I'm ready. Whatever. All right. Our next category of games is the repopulation kind of scenario. So these two games are kind of like futuristic, post-apocalyptic type of scenarios. And the first one is S.H.E.L.T.E.R. This is a very post-apocalyptic impregnation game if I've ever played one.
It just felt like you wanted to make... You had this developer on. I
did an interview with him a year and a half ago.
Your early interviews.
Yeah, he was kind enough to be my first victim
your guinea pig.
Interviews.
It wasn't a victim. It's a guinea pig.
Yeah, a guinea pig. But yeah, we talked about his games.
You were so nervous.
It was the first person that I had to talk to, and so I was
talking
nervous.
To another human. It was horrible.
Oh no, not like that. Not like that. Oh my gosh.
Do I?
Yes. I hope. But anyways, S.H.E.L.T.E.R. It's basically Fallout, where the whole world was nuked, and now you have mutants, and it's in a wasteland, and it's all that kind of stuff.
Everything felt accelerated though.
Accelerated?
Yeah, because you're like in the shelter for like a really short period of time.
Yeah, I know. You come out and everything's literally just gone.
It's like,
and
what happened?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah.
It's like, oh, we were in the shelter for 5 minutes and 60 years have gone by outside.
Yeah, because you do have like some monster girls that do show up later on, and it's like,
how did you mutate so quickly?
Yeah, and I'm just like, what's going on? Like, well, I guess because there is this one girl that does kind of have like this growing. She grows the cucumbers.
Yeah, it's the tentacle stuff.
Yeah,
and I think
and
this is a situation where he said it himself. The developer said it himself. Mm-hmm. His main game was the fantasy game, Fate of Eternia.
Yeah, Fate of Eternia.
And this Shelter was just meant to be kind of like a side project.
Yeah,
it blew up in popularity. And I got the impression that it kind of annoyed him how much more popular this game was than his main game.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we can't control what's more popular or what's not popular. And,
yeah, I mean...
we should just be thankful that somebody likes our stuff, regardless.
Yeah.
And I think that it was never meant to be a main project. Mm-hmm. So... Things moving quickly, you know, getting...
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And so the romance moved fast, the impregnation stuff moved fast, the conclusion moved fast, everything moved fast, and which I think some people were disappointed because they really liked the story, they really liked the idea.
Well, a post-apocalyptic kind of story is always fascinating, to me at least personally, so like the Fallout kind of scenario. Because I really like Fallout.
You're like, because it's going to be my future.
Yeah, well... I'm not saying that, but I am saying that.
So I think it was definitely a repopulation thing because...
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And the whole relationship with the dad was weird because the dad was like, oh, yeah, you need to do it because I'm sterile now. And he, like, was gone. And it's like...
Well, no, he's still there.
Oh, he is? Yeah, I thought he left.
No, he's still there and kind of just hangs around in the living room.
That's even worse.
I know.
Oh, man.
I know.
Oh.
But he's like, it's for the good of the population.
It's for the good of the plot line.
Yeah. It's like, okay. But so, Hugh can get pregnant. Every love interest can get pregnant. They all have the pregnant ending.
I think, but it depends on if you're on a corruption or romance path, right? Because I think, like, the robot only gets pregnant on the romance path, not the corruption path.
The robot actually doesn't get pregnant at all.
The robot has a kid.
Yeah, you build the kid because it's a robot.
It's all building a kid.
You don't even see the android. It's an android. You don't see the android pregnant because you build the baby.
Well, that just means that the womb was outside the body.
That's horrific. That's not sexy at all.
That's probably how at some point in the future, that's how all babies are going to be had.
Oh,
like natural birth. Why would I ever have a natural birth? You could put it in the pod.
That sounds... I don't want to think about that. That's
you can deal with it when you're an old woman and I'm dead.
Yeah, exactly. But like, no, you can have the baby, and it's the baby is like super smart, and so it's like reading and like doing things on like a tablet, and it's kind of weird looking.
Didn't
it's
that game have some like the ugliest babies
ever? Oh my god, the babies! They look like grown men. They're smoking a pack a day already. But these are babies, you know, introduced to radiation as soon as they're born. So
it's going to be a tough life.
It really is. Yeah. There is pregnant sex, but there is some lactation, but it's not a main flavor.
And there's a little bit of monster stuff as well, right?
Yeah, like you can get with a spider girl. And you can get with what we talked about, the tentacles.
The plant girl.
Yeah, the plant girl. And there is also an optional food character that can get pregnant.
Okay. Which is rare, because usually it's, you know, I'm sure we'll talk about that when we talk about...
Yeah, that's a thing that we're going to talk about in the space one.
Great.
It's not going to be that bad.
Yeah, I'm just anticipating the nasty comments you're going to get about it, about how you're not covering certain political and social topics in the right way, and people are going to be upset because they want you to talk about things in the right way. And why aren't you right, Annie?
I can't talk about everything. So. Anyways, our next game is Myst. So this is a kind of survival horror game, which is also a harem. I don't know if it's... Well, no, it is a harem. There's 4 characters that you can get with. And I guess you can count that as a harem.
You're gonna have spoilers for this one because I don't know how you
Yeah.
talk about this without spoilers.
Yeah, because the pregnancies are all the way at the end.
So we're gonna say, if you haven't played the game and don't want to be spoiled, you may want to jump in the chapters to the next game.
Yeah, but I think I should say a little summary just in case. Okay, so you take a trip to your grandfather's old cabin, but you are suddenly surrounded by this kind of deep, unnatural fog. Yeah. Oh, yeah, mist. Whatever. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. I said fog. I meant mist. What the fuck ever.
She missed the point.
That's good. All right. But this mist kind of comes out of nowhere and spawns these monsters that are out to get you.
They look like raccoons.
Yeah, well, they're rabid raccoons. And there are kind of like these, I guess, mist people or zombies. They're just like dark figures that have been taken over.
I think they were the humans
that
were transformed that did not survive. Are we getting to spoiler parts yet?
No.
Well, no, I'm asking, do we talk about the spoiler things yet, or is this enough? Or
I mean, I guess this is enough. You kind of just try to find out what happened to the world.
Yeah, so this eldritch power took over, and everybody on the planet's dead except for you and these 4 women.
It's not actually said if it's because of the mist.
Well,
you don't find out.
We don't, but that's the thing. By the end, this is all that's left, so you've got to repopulate the planet. And since this is in your repopulate the planet category.
Yeah, I know. I guess, spoilers.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. By the nature of what you were talking about, it's spoilers. And you really liked the game. It was going to be one of your you thought it was going to be the top game, and then it got banned off of Steam.
Yeah, it got banned because one of the characters looked too young, or
yeah. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's just the roll of the dice.
Okay.
You do get to see pregnant sex at the end, all the way at the end, but you don't get to see babies. So, I don't know if that's important.
Well, given all of the psychotropic drugs and magical things that you guys are taking along the way, who knows what these babies are even going to look like?
If the babies are actually there, or you're just holding
one of the eldritch
coconut
creatures is one of your romance partners there at the end. So it's like
oh yeah.
So who knows? Who knows what humans are going to look like? It's like
that's true.
It's like the end of the original Evangelion run. We have no idea how what the repopulated planet is going to look like.
Yeah, they really left us just to
where we just got some slice of life, like school ending with the new movies.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, that was a very different direction to go.
Well, so I did want to talk about like the apocalypse kind of thing. Like, do you think it's wise to get pregnant in an apocalypse?
Well,
do you think you would have to wait until your resources are good enough to kind of think about repopulation?
We've seen that Homo sapiens, there are a couple bottlenecks where there were very few Homo sapiens left alive, and the species almost died out.
Oh, okay.
And that's Homo sapiens. And so further back we go, there could be positions where it's just very few people. And when I was in school, we were taught that if 2 species had a baby, that baby was not fertile. And that's what we were taught. And we now know that's not the case. It's just a lot harder to have fertile offspring, but you can. And they found these polar grizzly bear hybrids up in Canada.
Like grizzly bears and polar bears have
and they've traced it all back to one female. Oh. So what we're seeing is an entirely new species. I don't know if they classified as a new species yet, but what could be an entirely new species?
I feel like it would be an entirely new species.
Well, that's a whole other story.
But what about like the liger? Is that the kind of
Yeah, that's the kind of thing. And so we're seeing all of this fertile offspring from this one bear.
Interesting.
So humans could be in a similar situation. Is that what's going to happen? I don't know. There is something selfish in bringing life into the world because you're not sure if you're going to be able to support it. By the time you arguably can support it, you're at an age where it's not optimal for you to have babies. So having a kid at 25 is a lot safer than having a kid at 45.
What about kind of like an accident kind of situation like The Walking Dead.
So
when the woman got pregnant, and then I guess eventually,
yeah,
is this spoilers?
No, I don't know. We're spoiling Walking Dead. I don't know.
Well, okay, so she dies after she has the baby, and so that is the thing that you would have to think of.
I think that what does Jeff Goldblum say in Jurassic Park? Life finds a way. So in a situation, you have a choice. Mm-hmm. Just as you have a choice, are you going to persevere in the face of the apocalypse? Are you going to try to continue 3 billion years of evolution in the apocalypse? Or are you just going to throw in the towel? And I think that's a very personal choice. And
I guess so, yeah.
We can all say, oh, this is what I would do, and I'd be dead in 2 minutes.
Honestly, yeah.
It wouldn't even be close.
I wouldn't even think about repopulating the world.
You're not thinking about repopulating the world now.
I would, yeah.
So.
But if I was had the choice to do that, I don't think I would.
And I think, but this type of exploratory, these are the questions that people like to ask, people like to think about, because once again, we use fiction as a way to safely explore reality. We use fiction as a way to kind of, what would it be like? Especially science fiction.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess it does go kind of into that trope where you are the only man left alive.
Except your dad sitting on the couch.
well, he's infertile, so it doesn't matter.
He's barely, he's a eunuch now.
No!
God.
That's
so
awful.
Terrible. Wait, are we shaming, though? I don't know.
Shaming eunuchs?
Or because the whole thing about it, there are individuals that like the idea of the bull getting the women pregnant and watching. So are we shaming them by making fun of it and saying it's awful? Probably.
Yeah, probably.
Getting all judgy. See? I knew you were a mean girl.
Gosh. Anyways, our next category are games that take place in, I guess I'm going to say a sci-fi setting, because the first game is a very enclosed space on a spaceship that you can't really leave. Well, you can. I'll get into that for a second. And then our second game is one that you're kind of exploring the sci-fi world, but you are still kind of enclosed.
But your ship is like your flying house.
Yeah, basically. Okay, so our first game is called Last Hope. And so this is a game where you're joining the Star Pursuit, which kind of has missions to find and terraform planets suitable for life. But as soon as you get on there, the main machine Gaia malfunctions, and you're kind of stranded in space now. And it is later revealed pretty closely, this is not a spoiler, it's later revealed that it is part of an experiment by aliens. Yeah, so that part's actually kind of cool. But so this Gaia thing malfunctions.
As opposed to just another plot device to put people in close proximity so they'll have sex.
Yeah.
This is an intentional plot device to put people in close proximity so they'll have sex.
Exactly, and that's what matters. But
it's a totally different story, I swear.
But you are coincidentally the last hope for this spaceship. Shut up. I like that joke.
So it's good that you got the title here where Mist was little too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the fog. The fog. Stop. Anyways, you are the last hope for this spaceship, and your bodily fluid is going to save everybody.
Which makes perfect sense.
It makes perfect sense that the composition of your sperm is the exact formula for the Gaia machine.
Yeah, exactly. It's all good. It's fine.
It makes sense.
It's like peeing in a radiator. It's sure, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. But this game is actually pretty cool. I first played it in 2021, and it looked rough, for a 3D game, but that was 2021, and I recently revisited it for this video, and it actually looks really good.
And it's completed now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's set to release on Steam.
Really? That'll be cool. I think it's kind of like an updated version of House Party in space with less party.
Yeah, and less people. I mean, there's only 3 people.
3 women and 1 guy.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Should be a cat.
There should be a cat.
There should be a cat.
Why would there be a cat on there?
Because
actually, why not?
Why not?
Yeah, why not? I take that back. I want the cat.
And that is like the biggest spaceship ever. It's like everybody has
huge.
multiple rooms, and I'm just like, man, this must be nice.
Yeah, they're getting good money for this ship. But there is also, so I did say that you can leave the ship. There is a pilot minigame where you can
mine
go
asteroids.
Yeah, you can shoot mine. Yeah.
So you make money in order to buy things, even though you're
gifts.
Stranded. But you can buy things but you're stranded.
The thing I think they get away with it is because the battery runs out really fast. So
it's just to make the game last longer.
Yeah. You do have internet or Wi-Fi, I guess, on the ship.
But you can't ask for help. That doesn't matter.
Yeah, so you can order things off this website and you can have it shipped to you like almost immediately.
You just can't order help.
Yeah,
you're like, I'm stranded. No, it's okay. We got it.
Yeah, but you do have to buy gifts for the love interests, so So speaking of the love interests, all of them can get pregnant. It's 3 women, and the pregnancy is kind of stuck at the end.
So it's just kind of a conclusion.
Yeah, and I'm feeling that it's mainly there to make people happy. Not to be rude, I'm just saying that they probably weren't planning on it, and they saw that.
But they were contextually building to it.
Yeah, and I guess
they painted themselves into a flavor corner.
Yeah, they did.
And they were like, okay, I guess everybody's got to get pregnant then. Okay, there we are.
Yeah, so you do get to see them pregnant, but there aren't any babies.
How do I render 3D models of pregnant characters? Oh man, we'll just figure it out.
Just stick a ball like where their stomach is.
It's fine. Just don't look closely.
Yeah, don't look closely at it. But yeah, that's basically Last Hope. So the pregnancy is all the way at the end, which I don't want to say it's disappointing, but it's just is what it is.
Yeah.
So our next game is with the trans and futanari thing that you were talking about, and we're so excited to talk about. All the grunts and like the ugh.
Well, I think it's, what is this, Tales from the Unending Void?
Yes.
Okay. I think one of the problems that I've noticed with this endeavor that you're on is that you'll get people come into Discord, you'll get people make comments, you'll get people send you messages, and they want you to ideologically be exactly the same as they are.
Yes.
And you go out of your way to not have opinions on things because you don't want to exclude people, you don't want to alienate people.
Yeah, because it's not about what I like. Yeah. It's about what you like, and I'm just kind of giving you options on what you can explore. And
especially in the Discord, you've had people come in that want you to have some degree of, let's call it ideological purity.
Yeah.
Take a position that has nothing to do with SPG and condemn people or not condemn people, or and you get a lot of pushback on the topic specifically of trans and anti-trans and all sorts of other real life issues where you're just like, I want to talk about video games and I want to talk about flavors, and you don't want to get bogged down in real life stuff, which is important, but your cause is
the safe and healthy exploration of sex and sexuality in video games.
And that's not real life.
No.
And so there are real life things that matter and they're important and matter more than video games, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
But that's just not your cause.
Yeah, it's not.
And
but
so, and you get a lot of pushback about that.
I know.
And it's unfortunate. So we're going to talk about this thing, and I'm sure there are going to be comments, aside from the comments talking about how awful I am, because that's just where we are.
Yeah.
But so Tales from the Unending Void, you did a review.
Yeah, I did.
And I remember in that review, you talked about there's a trans character and a futanari character, 2 different characters, right?
Yeah, so you have Ziv as the futanari character and Renee as the transitioning character. And
each of these romantic interests, and it's all optional, but each of these romantic interests had a little box that said if they were pregnant or not.
Yeah, and Renee's didn't have the pregnancy box. So
and you talked about, you said this is a science fiction world where we are defying
Yeah.
the laws of physics.
And
We are moving
technology.
faster than light and all this other stuff. And the idea that a trans person can't get pregnant seems weird to me, since we have all of this other made-up science. Why can't we have that piece of science?
Yeah.
And
Well, so I think you want me to talk about what the dev had said on the. I think that's what this is going towards.
well, it was just
So-
interesting.
Well, yeah, okay. So I was on the Steam discussion page, and I saw that the dev was responding to a pregnancy thing about Renee. And so this is what the dev has said. As for Renee, she won't have a pregnancy path. Despite the futuristic setting, I feel like it would require too much hand-waving to make logical sense for it to happen. Rest assured, there will be a lot of sex with her, so there won't be a lack of trying. There won't be a lack of trying. It's such a...
I think that science fiction has explored people changing genders.
Mm-hmm.
Science fiction has explored the future of procreation and everything else. And I think that if he wanted to have it in his game, he could have put it in his game.
Mm-hmm.
He obviously didn't want to have it in his game, and that's his choice.
Mm-hmm.
And that I would hate if anybody read into it. It doesn't mean he's transphobic. It doesn't mean he's a hater or anything else. That just means, hey, this is the game I want to make, and these are the flavors I want to have. And I think that that's okay.
Yeah.
I know that some people might not be satisfied with that answer. I know you might. You're probably not satisfied with that answer.
Well, I'm just thinking about how the sci-fi kind of setting, you think that anything's possible. I mean, you have things like Star Wars and Firefly and Star Trek and all these other things where kind of like all of these things that wouldn't happen in our real life to happen in the in the sci-fi setting. And you know, it's the same thing with fantasy. I expect kind of just like the fantastical stuff to happen.
And it could be, once again, devil's advocate, I apologize.
No, it's
It
fine.
could be that the people who are attracted to the impregnation flavor, you're trying to make money, you're trying to get people to buy your game, you're trying to get patrons, you want your Tales of the Unending Void to be as successful as your previous game, Sisterly Lust. Not going to happen.
I mean, there is a lot of pressure with that.
But, and if you do have a trans character getting pregnant, would that chase away...
Oh, the audience from Sisterly Lust?
Well, would it chase away the people who want only the cis female characters to get pregnant? So there's a concern there, because are you changing the flavor? This isn't about right or wrong or discrimination or anything else like that. This is about business.
Mm-hmm. Business.
Business.
Sorry, you say that so often.
I was
that I'm
trying
just like,
not to.
I know.
I was trying to behave.
Business. Yeah.
And I think that as a developer, I would be concerned, am I changing the flavor by doing this? And I think that is a reasonable concern to have. And I'm sure that there are people who are going to disagree and say, and that's great. And we have games with transformation themes that do go into this. Most of those games tend to reside in the realm of Futanari.
Yeah, and a lot of them are text-based adventures.
Yeah, well, because you don't have to show images for
Oh,
that.
yeah, it's very easy to add flavors into a text adventure.
Yeah.
Because you just gotta write it.
You just got to write it.
And, like, that's it.
And remember what you wrote.
Yeah.
So I think that I get where he's coming from. I know you may be disappointed, but, I mean, none of this is perfect.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think that...
I'm not disappointed, per se. It's just the direction.
This is primarily a heterosexual harem game.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, the fact that there are some, we would call non-heteronormative aspects like this, that's pretty good, all said and done.
Yeah.
So.
But I did want to say that Tales from the Unending Void doesn't actually have any pregnancy in it yet.
It just promises it.
It's just promising, and it's a lot of
It's like you said, it's the marketing. By having that box that says pregnancy.
Oh, it's a marketing strategy.
It's a marketing strategy, especially since you had the previous game.
Yeah.
Where Sisterly Lust,
Had
all of the
impregnation.
characters get pregnant. So
Interesting.
you're building upon, so what you're saying is, don't worry, it's coming.
Yeah.
We'll have it there
Yeah,
for
because
you.
I remember playing it. I'm
Yeah.
just like, okay, when is it gonna? And it never came. And so So what I'm thinking is that it's going to probably come. He's working on season 2 right now, so I'm thinking it's going to come like at the end of season 2, and
Maybe
basically,
or at the end of the game.
Or at the end of the game.
The problem is with pregnant bodies is those are new renders. And then you have to use those renders for all of the new scenes and everything else. But as long as they're not pregnant, I can use all of the old renders and everything that I have existing. So
I guess a time management.
Yeah, it's resources.
Yeah.
So. Oh, well.
Yeah, but so that's a game in the sci-fi realm that you can play to kind of like expect the pregnancy. But Last Hope also does have pregnancy, and I think that's a good sci-fi kind of enclosed place kind of.
And doesn't the S.H.E.L.T.E.R guy, isn't his new game on a ship too?
Yeah, what was it called? Stellar Dream.
And
that's also
that'll probably
enclosed...
have all of his other games
sure
have had pregnancy.
Does.
He was very clear about what flavors. He was really a genuinely nice guy, and I'm so glad that he came on and talked to you. And
I was so happy to have him on. I feel like I kind of ruined.
I always appreciate it when people are nice to you, because there's a lot of ick that your mom and I have to deal with this, and it's just it's like.
Yeah.
All right, and now we're gonna go to your. Okay. I did not know this flavor existed as a flavor until you had a word for it, and I was just like I had no idea. So please.
Okay, well, so I remember saying at the beginning of this video that I was going to talk about transformation flavors, and so I originally transformation flavors is the category that I came up with after figuring out that there aren't really any games with this flavor that you had a strong reaction to.
I just didn't know it existed.
I know. Okay, so it's called male pregnancy or masculine pregnancy. You said masculine. It's called m-preg.
Not m-preg.
Yeah, m-preg.
M-preg.
Or sometimes it doesn't even have a dash.
And this is an Omegaverse kind of thing.
So it's really, really, really common in written erotica, but not much so in games. And so that's where I was having trouble trying to find
that
games.
transition. But you wanted to talk about it.
But I wanted to talk about it. And, I did. So I have 2 examples for you.
All right.
Well, 2 examples of masculine pregnancy. So Marvel.
Yeah.
There is 2 characters that are really popular in the Omegaverse kind of m-preg universe. It's Iron Man and Captain America.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
I guess so, because one of them is the squeaky clean image and the other one is the bad boy. And one of them...
So wait...
Tony Stark is the bad boy. Captain America has the squeaky clean image.
So who do you think gets pregnant most?
Oh, I have no idea.
It's Iron Man. It's Iron Man.
Okay, but I could have flipped the coin. I have no idea. You're like, it's Iron Man.
You were talking about the squeaky clean and the bad boy, and I'm just like, oh.
Well, I don't know. You gotta get the bad boy pregnant, I guess. I don't know.
The ones that I know of, it's Iron Man.
I would have guessed Loki, Thor.
That's also one.
Especially since Loki has literally had children before.
Yeah.
So
there are so many combinations. That's the most common one that I've seen.
If Harry Potter is the most popular fan fiction, what is it? Draco Malfoy and Harry Potter? Okay.
Yeah.
And then Voldemort and...
Maybe...
Harry Potter again, maybe. Because they share the same brain, sort of.
Maybe Dumbledore. I know Dumbledore and Harry is one.
Oh, God.
Voldemort and Harry... It's Harry and Snape.
Oh, man. Okay.
Yeah.
That poor kid.
Yeah, that poor kid.
He's had a rough time.
But I also did want to talk about m-preg in a movie. It's called Junior.
Okay.
And it's with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he impregnates himself using a fertility drug.
Wouldn't you have to, add organs, though? All right, suspend disbelief.
Yeah,
disbelief, I got it.
Honestly, because
right.
it's,
So,
but it
so
is
this,
in
this
media.
Is, so this is the thing.
Yeah.
And so this is a thing where it's we're going to suspend disbelief, and this is an individual that identifies as male, has male parts, but somehow is
able to get pregnant.
But they're still male. So it's not like they've been turned female and they're getting pregnant. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm just trying to...
Yeah, and so I was trying to find games where that happened, where a male character turned or transformed into a female character and was then able to get pregnant. And there, honestly, aren't a lot of games like this, or at least good games.
Oh, God. Judgy.
I know, that sounded judgy. I meant good as in quality.
Okay.
Not like from a story perspective, but from quality. And so I pretty much came up with two. And the first one is Pact with a Witch.
Okay.
And so this is a story where your friend, your male best friend, is bitten by a witch and slowly changes into a girl because the witch wants to teach him a lesson.
Curses him or,
Yeah, basically. And so you have to go on 3 dates with this witch to kind of figure out how to turn your best friend back into his male form.
And aren't there endings where the best friend stays female?
Yes, there is an ending where you, I guess, impregnate the male character. It doesn't say necessarily impregnate, but it's basically that.
Okay.
So
I think, and I remember you covered this game like years ago. And you were talking about it because it was a difficult game to talk about stereotypical gender roles because it was so fluid and not defined, and what is the line between male and not male, and if you can change things and turn it around. And you had a lot of trouble talking about it, and I think you spent more time talking about how much trouble you were having talking about it than you did the actual game.
Yeah. Because, Didac, the main male, the friend. Yeah, his name's Didac. And he starts to like being in this female form. And so he kind of decides at some point that he wants to stay in the female form and is like, okay, we can have sex.
All right, well.
It also does sometimes get rapey, but
I think we talked about this when we talked about consent stuff.
Yeah.
Any kind of forced transformation is going to have some element of non-consent. There's just no way around it.
Yeah, and it's definitely not it's not willing.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
At least in the beginning. And
well, so that's one of the questions I had while making this list. Is there a difference between forced pregnancy and willing pregnancy? I think there is, but I want to hear your opinion.
Is there a difference? What do you mean, is there a difference?
So, say you have this love interest and you decide to rape them, and it's a forced pregnancy, in contrast to a willing pregnancy where the love interest wants to have your babies.
So, one of the difficulties, when we had Lockhart on here, he talked about how 70-80% of women have rape fantasies.
Yeah.
Okay. If you look at the description of their rape fantasy, it's definitely not consensual, but it's definitely much more gentle than the 30 or 40% of men that have rape fantasies. If you look at their rape fantasies, they tend to be a little bit harsher than the female rape fantasies. That's not all women. That's not all men. Oh my God!
Yeah.
But,
I'm gonna have a disclaimer.
And people still yell at you about that. You're like, "Well, you're not listening." And so the trouble is when we say this thing, when we say this fantasy, it means something so very different depending on the audience that we're talking about. So most of these sexual encounters are going to have some level of non-consensual whatever. Some are going to be much more extreme than others, but they're all going to have some level of non-consensual. So once again, it really depends on the situation. It depends on the scenario. Okay, I'm trapped on a spaceship, and the only way that we can get off the spaceship is if you get pregnant. Okay, can you really consent if that's the only way you can get off the spaceship? That seems like you're being coerced.
Okay.
And so would we consider that to be a rape fantasy? Well, it's coercion, but I don't think most people would point and say, well, that's a rape fantasy. So it's tough. Mind control. Most of us don't see mind control as a rape fantasy, even though Patreon is very clear that it sees all mind control as rape fantasy.
Yeah.
So it's very personal. And once again, since we're all consenting to play this game or read this book or watch this movie, we are consenting to do that. So none of this is non-consensual. And I think that some of it's going to be harsher, some of it's going to be not harsh enough, some of it's going to be we're all going to find different appeal in this, what do we call it? The dark triad stuff.
Yeah.
and that's okay. And it doesn't mean that the one person's decision is worse than the other person's. Only if you're bringing that into real life. So.
Okay, that probably wasn't a fair question to ask you.
It was not.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure you're going to get beat up in the comments again.
Thanks. I really appreciate that.
But this game actually got me looking for research on trans and pregnancy, and I actually found an interesting study that came out just this year. It's called Subjective Experiences of Pregnancy, Delivery, and Nursing in Transgender Men and Non-Binary Individuals. And so they talk about how pregnancy could be successfully framed as a gender-neutral act, certain pregnancy-related body changes and reactions to others in pregnancy as a sign of femininity. We're pretty much expected to trigger the gender dysphoria. So in order to not have that gender dysphoria, people had to kind of reframe their perspective on pregnancy, like what that meant to them.
I think that's almost like we're talking about what we would think of as science fiction, talking about having the children in the pod outside of the womb. We already have babies that are being born which have the DNA from 3 different people with gene therapy. So I mean, yeah. I guess that this is if we make it as a civilization, this is probably a potential outcome. A safer and healthier birth that doesn't put the mother's life at stake as regular pregnancy does. And so then when we start doing that, can we have babies with different donors that are not what we would consider, I guess, classically male, one male donor, one female donor?
Yeah.
And that is interesting. I think that helping people explore their challenges is a good thing, especially fiction being able to help people. Whatever, we all have struggles. Whatever that struggle is, that fiction helping you persevere through your struggle, cope with the struggle, because I don't know, none of this stuff is going to fix us. The idea of fixing people, that's not ever going to happen. It's about finding a way to be functional. It's about finding a way to be more okay with ourselves so we can get up each day. And
the study does go into 2 participants who actually realized that they did not identify as women. And so because they had this strong association between pregnancy and femininity and the gender stereotype that they had internalized.
That is
So there is it does go into how things have changed, but it also goes into how things have still stayed the same.
I am thankful that isn't my fight and that isn't my personal struggle, because that just seems like unimaginably awful to have to deal with.
Yeah. Okay, so for the next game is Corruption of Champions 1 and 2. Mainly the second one is what I'm going to be talking about because I played that more than the first one. But basically, Corruption of Champions is a text-based adventure where there is a story, but I'm going to be honest, it's mainly about romancing and getting with the monsters and the monster girls. And there's an in-depth character customization, so you can pretty much be whoever you want to be.
Then transition to anything else at any point.
Yeah, so it's a really good kind of D&D kind of text game. You set out with your party and onto an adventure. That's basically the game. But so the thing that I wanted to talk about is that the main character can get pregnant and can be impregnated.
Male or female, right?
Yeah, it depends on what genitals you have. So if you have male genitals, you do have the pregnancy. You can be impregnated, and you can also impregnate people. But the male being impregnated is, it's called egnancy, and it's basically
just making up words now.
No, I'm not. It's a term. It's called egnancy, and it's basically egg pregnancy. Where
isn't it always egg pregnancy?
I guess, but these are very kind of bird egg, lizard egg kind of situations.
So are they implanting eggs
Yes.
into you? Oh, so it's like Alien.
Yeah.
Where it's like hatching out of you.
Oh.
Just less painfully.
No, it doesn't hatch in you. So I'm gonna have to explain this.
Yes,
to you.
you're gonna have to. I am.
All right. So you have your character. You have another character. The character then impregnates you through your butthole. So just let me explain. Through your butthole, and the eggs sit in there, and they need to fertilize. So you kind of get with other characters that can.
So you're like an incubator, but you're not actually.
Oh my god! I guess you are.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
okay.
and then once the eggs are ready to be born, you lay the eggs out of your butthole, and you let them hatch. What?
Okay, all right.
That's what happens.
Okay, no shaming.
Yeah, so I guess there is kind of a male pregnancy, but it's not the male pregnancy that it's in most written erotica.
My understanding with these types of games is you're having male genitals or female genitals it morphs. So you will develop the male genitalia or undevelop the male genitalia, develop the female genitalia, undevelop the female genitalia.
Yeah, like I said, you can pretty much be whoever you want to be.
So a male identifying character could develop female genitalia and get pregnant.
Yes.
Without this excellent description you have given me.
Yes, basically. So the children that you can have a ton of children in this game. And it's not a repopulation kind of thing. It's just you can have just a bunch of children. And they can be either put in a nursery or they can be taken care of by you. And
how is that? You're off adventuring.
Exactly. That's why most
of them... put them in a backpack?
Yeah, most of them go to the nursery.
Like Luke Skywalker with Yoda?
I mean, I guess. I mean, I don't know the aging process, if they, grow up really fast or not. But that's why I'm assuming that's why the nursery is there. And you kind of just stick them there.
The corruption is having to take care of all these children, man. All right.
The interesting thing about the pregnancy is that the hip to waist ratio will change, and the thickness of your hips and your butt and your breasts will increase.
So
when
you'll
you're
see
pregnant.
Secondary sexual characteristics morph from the pregnancy, which can actually happen in real pregnancies.
Life.
So, okay, that's an interesting.
I thought that was pretty cool.
That whole text adventure thing, you can just put in whatever you want.
Exactly. It's really easy to put really any flavor in a text adventure, and I did find so if you are impregnated by a hornet, or you have, I guess, intercourse, like impregnation kind of intercourse with a hornet, with either genitals, you will lactate.
Honey?
Honey, yes.
The phrase you were looking for is when you get beezy.
It's not a bee though, it's a hornet.
Oh my god, I think the joke works.
It does, but I don't want it to work.
Because I don't think hornets have honey. Do hornets have honey?
I don't know. I don't think...
I gotta look this up.
Yeah, I know. I don't know actually now.
Hornets
I just know that if you get with
honey.
Like Queen Nazira, and she's a hornet, and you can lactate honey.
Hornets do not make honey. I didn't think they did.
Well, so, in this game they do.
My bee joke holds.
I guess it does. Whatever. So a game I do want to talk about is Tales of Androgyny. So it's an RPG where you play as a feminine guy whose appearance you can change to be more masculine, androgynous, feminine, or really anything between.
Is that why it's called Tales of Androgyny?
It is why it's called. A lot of these games have,
complicated titles like Myst.
Yeah, and Last Hope. So yes, Tales of Androgyny is about your tale of androgyny. So you're basically building this character and kind of like the Corruption of Champions. It's like a D&D style, where you have a lot of stats, and there is a deeper story that's being worked on.
And there are some images.
Yeah, it's a very, instead of Corruption of Champions, it's a very more visual novel kind of outlook to it.
But I think there's a lot of stats and text heavy as well. I think it's just,
definitely. Yeah. Lots
If
of
it's on a
text,
spectrum between, that text adventure and visual novel, this is somewhere in between.
Yeah, somewhere in between. It does deal with the pregnancy flavor, which we talked about, the pregnancy with eggs. You have, like, goblins that lay eggs in you.
When did goblins have eggs?
I don't know. But that's just how it works
I feel like
game.
This flavor is very scrambled.
Please do not make egg jokes. This can't be your contribution to this. You gotta think of something else.
I apologize. This topic is causing me to crack up.
So there are some male pregnancy scenes, and I think you can get other male monsters pregnant. And they do use terms like nodding, which is in the Omegaverse.
From
it's
dogs?
A term. Yeah. Well, yeah, you know how like the
quadrupeds.
Yeah, it's basically you know it.
Yeah.
Okay. Should I explain it to the audience?
I think it's interesting because I know you didn't want to touch on the monster flavor with this one, and this is definitely moving into that direction.
Yeah, this does go into the monstrous impregnation, and so does Corruption of Champions. And honestly, if a developer wants to talk about the monstrous impregnation or monster flavor, then you need to definitely reach out to me, and I'd love to have you on the show.
To be fair, you're happy to have whatever developer talking about whatever flavor, so...
That's also true. Yes.
Everyone's welcome. Just no egg jokes.
Yeah, please no egg jokes. I'm talking to you, not... I'm looking at you when I say this.
What about if you get like that developer of Kobold Care with all the eggs in it?
Oh, with all the eggs.
Is that okay?
I don't know. I mean, I guess. Yeah, because it does have eggs. Okay.
We could just say this is our Easter episode.
Easter already passed.
Well, it's close enough.
Close enough.
Maybe Eastern Orthodox. It's a different time, right?
Okay.
Oh, wait, true. I think it's the same week this year. Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah. All right, I failed.
Yeah, but I have a lot of games for Monstrous Impregnation. I got Ravager, got Slugs and Bugs, Conversion, Breeders and the Nephilim. I got a lot, like just off the top of my head.
Okay.
And I'm sure I can add more, especially with like the breeding kind of flavor.
I think the monster flavor definitely is misunderstood. So I think talking about it and going into it, and especially getting a developer who knows their stuff and is a fan of the space, I think that could be incredible just to hear you guys.
Yeah, I would love to hear just like their thoughts.
I would like to know what their thoughts are on the Beast versus Gaston, though. Just saying.
Are you going to bring that up?
No, I promise not to.
You're going to bring it up.
Unless people do in the comments say to, because they were very passionate about this subject in the comments last week.
Okay, that is true.
And you're just like, I have no opinion on this subject.
This was a marketing strategy.
I was an innocent bystander.
I really was. Oh, God. All right, so the next and final, hopefully,
Hopefully.
I don't know what will happen, is the lactation flavor being the main focus in the game, and the impregnation flavor not really being the focus.
Or at least focus. Not yet if it's in development.
Or at least not yet. So, like, our first game is Harem Hotel, which does have impregnation probably on the horizon, but as of right now, it's mostly focusing on the lactation flavor, along with a bunch of other flavors.
So it could be, once again, that marketing thing to...
Yes, yeah, it could be.
Get people's juices flowing.
Yeah, yes. I can't take you seriously. I can't. Jesus Christ. Okay, so Harem Hotel has been going on since 2018, still not as finished. So it does have an enormous amount of content.
But is it a hotel?
They did change it after we talked about it. Did you know? Did I tell you that?
No.
Okay, so when I first covered
it... I know you were joking about it for the longest time.
Also, when I was first talking about it and when I first covered it, the hotel that they had did not look like a hotel. It looked like a house. And so...
Well, they don't live there. They live there. It's not like it's like an apartment building.
Yeah, it's... Well, I mean, what's a hotel if not a apartment building that you're just kind of renting out?
Well, generally there's a limited amount of time somebody can stay in a hotel because they're not residing in the hotel. And you do have hotels which also have apartments.
Okay.
Especially in cities where like half of the hotel will be hotel rooms. We've stayed in places like that.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Okay, so this one, the hotel doesn't really feel like a hotel. It's kind of like, it feels more like a frat house.
So it could be a hotel. We just never see any of the hotel guests.
Yeah. Or the guests that do show up, you're always with. Like or like that's a potential love interest, kind of. So basically the premise is that you've inherited this quote-unquote hotel.
Domicile.
Yeah, from your grandfather. And he's passed away, and so you kind of move to this city and run this hotel kind of with the help of this other woman. She basically does all the work for you.
This feels like the plot of Stardew Valley. You've inherited a farm from your grandfather.
Yeah, he does send you a letter, so like in Stardew Valley.
And then you're going to try to romance all the people.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, yeah. So it's like Stardew Valley.
And there's plenty of lactation because you got to milk those cows. I'm just saying.
There are no cows at this hotel.
But you said there was lactation.
There is.
I'm just saying we got a relationship here.
I mean, there's only pretty much like 2 characters that have the lactation.
What is it? The robot you can like buy parts for or something?
So there is an android that there's a whole lore about the android. There's actually a big lore around
a lot of world building.
Yeah, about like politics and religion and wars and robots. And
but no cows.
Not that I
or hotel guests.
Or that. So you basically have this android that your grandfather was kind of fixing up, and it's an older model of the android.
Of course, it's an older model.
And these androids are pretty much sex robots. So you fix her up, and you're able to have her as a love interest.
You remember when we watched that movie, Cherry 2000?
That sounds really familiar.
It was like, it starts with like, he has a sex robot and then it malfunctions and he has to go get like a replacement for it. And it's from the 80s.
I think so, yes.
And you hated it but also liked it at the same time because you like terrible 80s movies.
Yeah, 80s movies. I have a love-hate relationship with terrible 80s movies. Like, I love it, but it gets cringy.
Pretty much.
But basically, you can buy upgrades for this android in Harem Hotel, and one of the upgrades is
lactation.
Yeah.
I think you can change your boobs too, right?
Mm-hmm. So. Different sizes.
So, I mean, okay, and you think it's going to have
impregnation
at the end?
Yeah, and marriage.
Okay.
I think I've seen things where like it's hinting at that.
They're illusion models, right?
Yes.
So the illusion models can do pregnant things. So that would make sense to see it.
Yeah, illusion models are also really great for lactation games.
I did not know that.
Well, it's a common theme that I've been seeing in games that use illusion models because it's just easy to implement.
And to be fair, lactation does seem to be a major theme in Japanese games, doesn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
And if you couldn't tell, I haven't really talked about Japanese games. Do you think I should say why?
Well, no, I think it is interesting to me to see behind the scenes how much agonizing you go through about how you're going to talk about something because you really worry about if you're going to.
Well, in this space, you got to be really careful about
you don't want to come
say.
Off as shamey or come off as intolerant or anything else, and I think that. I mean, I think it's fair.
Well, so I was worried because I was probably going to have a purely Western point of view
on this cultural thing.
Yeah, of pregnancy and lactation, and so I don't know how the Japanese culture
sees it.
Sees pregnancy and lactation as flavors, and so I didn't want to misinterpret or mislead anybody.
So you're saying that we need a developer for the monster game, and we need somebody who understands Japanese culture to come and talk about lactation and pregnancy, and possibly tentacle monsters. And that makes sense. Having different voices, having different opinions makes your message stronger. And I understand how you want to be cautious to not say the wrong thing because you get enough attacks just
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
is. So it's tough because, and I think people just feel really strongly about this. People,
Yeah.
and it's what you would think were otherwise accepting, tolerant, reasonable people. You hit one theme, you hit one flavor, and they just lose their minds. So you got to be careful.
Yeah, it's all about just tiptoeing around everything.
Right.
But I think that goes well into our next game called White Russian by a Russian developer. I put this in here. Yes, it's a Russian developer, but it's an English game, so that's why it's in here.
Oh man. Okay.
And,
all right. Yeah. So all right.
This
Should
game.
probably explain what a White Russian drink is first for those who don't know.
Yeah, I think you should, because I don't really know.
Right.
I know it's a drink. And I think it has milk in it. So
yeah, it's a cocktail. It's coffee liqueur or coffee, vodka because it's Russian, and then cream.
That sounds good, actually.
Because I laughed because it was like, okay, I know what cream they're using for this White Russian. So, and then you're like, oh, it's by a Russian developer, and it's like, okay, well, we're really on the nose here.
We really are. So this is a game where it explores, like, I think lactation is probably the main flavor in this game.
And growing coffee.
I guess, yeah.
No.
Not really, but okay. Okay, so the summary is that you get a letter from your uncle leading you to find 2 jugs of milk in this farm. Just you gotta stay with me here.
I'm staying with you
because the story is fucking ridiculous.
I'm staying
you
with
just
you.
gotta stay with me.
Okay, I'm right there with you.
You have these 2 jugs of milk.
Find these jugs of milk at the farm.
Yeah, and so you discover.
How long does a jug of milk last?
That doesn't matter.
Okay.
That does not matter. So at your job, you discover that the cafe that you're working at is actually closing soon because you're not getting enough customers. So
you're like, let's use human milk.
No, just let me explain. So you decide to use the jugs of milk to kind of raise everybody's spirits at this party that you go to. And then the girls who drank the milk are starting to show symptoms of lactating. And so you use the milk from the boobs to put in to the coffee and use as creamer.
Okay, all right. Yeah,
and
there we
then
go.
business booms.
Business booms.
Again, it's a marketing strategy.
I see. Okay, so, and I do wonder if you will ever have a lactation game that doesn't culminate in some type of pregnancy. I don't think it would. I mean, it's possible. I just think that...
You mean like how lactation isn't possible without
pregnancy? No. You can have lactation without pregnancy. There's a way to induce, and some people do it, especially if they're adopting young. It's kind of dangerous, but some people do it. No, what I'm talking about is, are there people that like the lactation flavor that do not like impregnation at all?
Oh,
How small a group of people is that?
Oh, I don't know.
Because I would think that the vast majority, if we do a Venn diagram, liking lactation, liking impregnation, I would think that they're almost completely overlapping. Mm-hmm. I acknowledge that there may be people who don't like it. Mm-hmm. So if I'm making a game that has one but not the other, I feel like I'm alienating my base again.
Yeah, that could be the case. I want to go back to the milk thing and because I wanted to talk about this with Summertime Saga, where you have your aunt who is... Okay, I'm going to get a little heated with this because it doesn't make sense. Maybe it does, but it doesn't to me. So you have your aunt in Summertime Saga, and she produces milk for the town from her breast milk.
Correct.
And
are you concerned that she couldn't possibly create enough milk?
That's not my problem.
Okay.
My problem is that people aren't recognizing the difference between cow milk and breast milk.
Okay.
So I don't know if this universe, have they ever tried cow milk?
Time out.
Because
let me ask,
breast milk tastes completely different than cow milk.
Let me ask a question, okay? And technically, cow milk is breast milk. It comes from a cow breast.
Yes, but breast milk
That's
from
supposed
a
to
human.
Human milk.
Yeah, breast milk from a human is sweeter than cow milk.
Hold on. So, you're okay suspending disbelief that this one human can produce enough milk to feed a town. You're okay suspending disbelief there. But you're not okay suspending disbelief that somehow people would be okay with drinking the milk. That's the bridge too far for you. That is the that's
it is.
okay.
It is.
Okay. Now, do you maybe see how that may be a little ridiculous?
No. I'm gonna die on this hill.
I will die on this mound of boob.
Yeah.
I think that there is a flavor where it's like turning women into cows and using them and
yes.
milking them and everything else. So I think this may be hitting upon that flavor.
Oh, okay. I can see that because in what was it? It was Deviant Anomalies. They have like the breast pumps in like the lab thing. And they also have that in Summertime Saga.
So I think what we're dealing with here is this is part of that flavor, and so it may not be a flavor for you. And you're having a negative reaction to it, which is surprising because you usually have thought about it ahead of time.
It's not a negative reaction. I'm just I'm like, how did they not know the difference between cow milk and breast milk?
I don't think they care.
Have they ever had cow milk?
I think this is a plot device. Like the White Russian game, they're like, hey, this milk is weird.
Also, they're making pizza out of this milk, so it's like, what does that change the pizza?
I think that goat's milk tastes different than sheep's milk, tastes different than cow milk. Different cows have different milk and different. So yes, it would change the flavor. I think you may be looking too deeply into this.
I'm definitely looking too deep into it.
Now
it's just a thing that has stuck with me since I played that game.
I bet. Hold on, and we can. Human milk cheese.
Human milk cheese. I'm sure that's a thing. I think that is a thing. I think I've heard of that.
Yes, breast milk cheese.
Yeah.
There are people that make this, and
I mean, to each his own. So is it a sweet cheese?
I think it is going. You're gonna have different versions. You're gonna have different characteristics. You're gonna have.
Oh yeah, does each breast milk taste different?
Well, I think you're gonna have some overlap. Each cow's milk tastes different.
Yeah.
But the reason that you don't notice is because it's all pumped into the same tank.
Yeah.
And the way pasteurization works is they're separating the milk fat, and then they do the process, and then they add the milk fat back in as to what kind of milk it's going to be. Is it going to be whole milk? Is it going to be 2%? Is it going to be 1%? Is it going to, or not anything at all with skim milk, or
like
what they call
fat-free
It's called skim milk, but they
whatever.
renamed it to fat-free milk. But then they pump it back in. So what you're drinking is this amalgamation of thousands of cows. You're not actually. I'm sure there is a taste difference between one cow and another cow, and one cow is going to taste better to you than the other cow. But that's not how we drink milk. We drink milk on an industrial scale. So, yeah, sorry.
Yep.
The better question is human breast milk count as vegan?
Ooh. Remind me what vegan is again.
Does it come from an animal? But since human breast milk, it might be willing.
Yeah, I know.
Does the willing contribution make it vegan or not?
Well, I guess, it would depend if it's your breast milk or somebody else's breast
milk.
milk.
Well, if that person is consenting, the cow can't consent.
What if it's your breast milk?
The goat can't consent. You can consent.
Okay, so it'd be fine to...
If the milk is consensual, does it count as vegan?
I don't know.
I don't know. So...
That's a weird point to end on, I guess.
Oh, yeah, and throwing a fit about a whole town drinking breast milk or not.
I'm just so confused. I'm like, how isolated is this town to not know what cow
all the things to
like?
Be... Okay, that's just a very interesting...
I know.
That is very interesting.
It stuck with me.
Okay.
As I was playing the game.
All right. So if you're making a breast milk game, please let us know what you think the rationale is for a town consuming it. Are they okay with it? Do they notice a difference?
Yeah.
Annie really needs to know. She's losing sleep over this.
I honestly need the developer. What's his name? Dark Cookie. I need him to come to me and say.
No, you need Dark Cookie to put out a build. Okay, that's don't distract him with anything else.
Yeah. That's fair.
And to be fair, with a name like Dark Cookie, it would make sense if you understood milk.
Oh, yeah, cookies and milk. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to check out my YouTube channel, my Patreon, and my Discord, where I'm probably the most active. You can find the Shame Free Gaming Podcast on Spotify if you're interested in listening there instead of on YouTube. All the links to the games and studies that we talked about can be found on my Patreon. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time.